glad to have you back. Yes, we still on to rise and shine, reaching you from Spectrum Television Channel 136, Startimes. And of course, we are we're just a click away, so you can click and watch us live on Facebook and on YouTube with the handle at Spectrum TV. NG. And of course, this Monday morning, it is celebrated the world over, being 18th of April 2022 as the World Heritage Day. And the theme for this year's celebration is our heritage and the climate. Of course, that has been our focus as we have been talking about the need and the necessity to, preserve our heritage and also try to maybe do away with some unhealthy practices that we have practiced many years back.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of beautiful things happen around our environment, and our heritage will definitely till tomorrow still define who we are. It's
Mm-hmm.
visible in our name, it's visible in our tradition, it's visible in our languages, it's visible in our culture, our dress, attire, and practically everything we do. So it's an amazing thing.
Okay, well, the truth of the matter is it's visible in even our faces because if you look at someone from the north in Nigeria, you will not need Solomon's wisdom or it's not any form of scientific experiment. You will just know, oh, well, I assume you are from the north. I say, yeah, I'm a Muslim and all of that. So it's visible in our faces, it's visible in our dressing, it's visible in the food we eat, it's visible in the way we dress and all of that. So culture, our heritage is visible in virtually all parts of our endeavors. And of course, we've been talking about ways to preserve this culture. It is replicated in our artifacts. It is replicated in some monumental structures that we have, like the natural reserve. We have quite a number of them that we can make boast of in Nigeria. And of course, we'll be speaking with an expert who'll be giving us insight on why we should preserve this heritage or perhaps how important it is for us as a people at this time. Yeah, perhaps Francis will do us the honors to introduce our guest.
All right, I think at this point we'll get to the guest, where
Of
we get to
course.
talk about World Heritage Day 2022. So let's get to our guest. Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Happy Easter Monday. You are on to Spectrum Television Rise and Shine show. How are you this morning, sir?
I'm good, and you?
Very well, thank you. My name is Frank Cesadet, and I have with me on set Otto Bassi.
Good morning,
Oh,
Honorable Chris Abasiayor. It's great to have you. Okay, we've been talking about our heritage and the climate, which, of course, today being 18th is celebrated as the World Heritage Day. I would like to ask, how important is our heritage to us as a people now?
the challenge is that the economy is really,
Hello, Mr. Chris.
I mean, your voice is really, it's not too,
Okay,
Oh,
so can you hear us loud and clear?
okay.
Okay, sir. So the question is, how important is our heritage to us as a people?
Okay. Okay.
I think we're having
maybe
some
we'll
issues with
try
our
to get
network
back to him.
reception right now, so we'll have to try and reconnect to our
Absolutely.
guest. And I hope the network will be very friendly because we
I-
really need to. Hello,
Absolutely.
sir. Can you hear us?
Okay.
Okay, sir. So, first questions we have for you is how important is our heritage to us as a people, considering the fact that we're celebrating the World Heritage Day today?
Oh, um, which, involves a lot of anything said, everything you have inherited, everything inheritance is under heritage, meaning in this case, it's generally of heritage, a big name that I can in specific terms all that hello.
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you,
we can
sir.
hear you.
That international side, I famous, have come to talk about heritage in very good. We say cultural heritage means of living by community and past tradition, including and etc. That the people eat the way they did their job, the way they did their festivals, their marriages, conduct their burial, rituals of encounter, all those one put under heritage. For example, heritage is you are keeping in. There are some culture not see begging as a shameful thing. Culture sees begging. Fortunately, we go to men who were not invited to gather outside, waiting for big men who will be so that they can go in their cars. But it is not our heritage passed down to us. But so, but however, heritage is to be. There are a lot of heritage, but we have to pick into heritage who stand up good into tourism. So a whole lot. For example, we have some heritage sites. Look into aquarium. So if you be able to talk about heritage, and heritage can be
Okay,
as
sir.
a rather.
Hello.
Hello.
Honorable Chris. Okay, you've mentioned quite a couple of things, but I know you've mentioned also that Akwa Ibom is very rich in cultural heritage. You've also tried to know that to distinguish some cultural heritage from natural heritage and all of that. I'm concerned. We know Nigeria is the beauty of Nigeria is a diversity. And Nigeria is very rich in terms of culture and heritage. And it cuts across all ethnic groups in Nigeria, which can be, is stipulated about 200 plus now. How would you describe our heritage as a country, or what effect does it have on us as a people?
Yeah, Nigeria is a classical case of a people from diverse cultural heritage still coming together and living together more than 100 years since the unification in 1914. Even in Europe, such countries have parted their ways. So Nigeria is a classical example in people with diverse cultural heritage still living together. And this can be transformed and developed into special tourism attraction. Cultural tourism is an important aspect of tourism because these are aspects of tourism which cannot be transferred or bought with money. So you have to go to where such festivals are hosted to see things for yourself. So if Nigeria should pick interest in capitalizing in their unity in diversity heritage, they will attract a lot of tourists to visit Nigeria. That is to say, a tourist that comes to Nigeria during cultural festival is likely going to see different things, but in one bond of unity across the length and breadth of the country. So these are the aspects for which we can utilize and transform into something glorious and benefiting to the extent of boosting our economy.
Well, to us, that's the prospects that we have. But do you think it's a blessing to us or a curse?
Hello?
Hello, Honorable Chris. I'm asking,
Yeah.
you've mentioned the potentials we have as a country that is rich in diversity of cultural heritage. But I'm concerned, to us as a country, is it a blessing to us, considering the fact that to a large extent, Nigeria is not exploring tourism as a means of diversification? So would you say it's a blessing, the rich cultural heritage? Is it a blessing to Nigeria or a curse?
It is a very great blessing. No culture is on itself a complete culture. Yes, cultures are very flexuous because of the nearness to the other cultures. So any culture that stands alone will soon die out. The richness of the Nigerian culture is in the diversity of our cultures as a people, because we learn certain things from certain rich aspects of the other cultures to enrich our own culture, and others also learn certain rich aspects of our culture to enrich their own. So there are more blessings in such diversity than vices. That is the truth of the matter, because there is unity in diversity and there is beauty in diversity. I tell you as a fact, if you go to a garden, a strawberry, with only one type of flower, the beauty will not be there if you have admixture of flowers in such a garden. So it is true of humanity. The world is beautiful when there are many races coming together. For example, the United States of America is the most looked after country in the world. The reason is that every culture is represented in America. There is no tribe which hasn't a person at least living in the United States of America. That is why some experts have said that America is a physical experiment of how paradise would be, because paradise would be made up of sin from all tribes and cultures. So America is that experiment according to them, because America is where all races can be found under the sun.
Okay, sir. So this year's theme, World Heritage Day 2022, is heritage and climate, and the essence is to promote conservation, research, and employ sustainable strategies to protect the heritage site. Now, my question is, how does preserving different cultural heritage or different cultural sites translate into protecting our climate, protecting our environment? And what's the benefit of that to the Nigerian people?
If you look at our cultural heritage, if we had studied them very well and kept faith with our cultural heritage, you would know that our cultural heritage had an aspect which protected the environment. Our cultural heritage defended the environment. Our cultural heritage made sure our environment were not polluted. I can tell you an example. That are where we call Ifum. In all over the places, this and that, where it was forbidden for people to enter to cut down any tree. There are a few of such places still around. A few have been cleared and cut down in the name of development. I tell you, it was in a way, that is our traditional way of conservation of the vegetation. So our cultural heritage in that aspect is what the UNESCO is trying to encourage humanity, that those aspects of our heritage is protected, the environment should be reactivated and revived. So many farmlands you have around your place which are conserved, where people are forbidden to enter. It was a style, that was a traditional style of conservation which we are now destroying.
Okay, well, so one of the things that we know that UNESCO is trying to protect is to keep our tourism potentials collectively and individually as a country together. Now, we know that so far Nigeria has not significantly utilized the fact that we have a lot of these heritage sites within. As an expert and somebody who understands the importance of tourism sites, what would be your advice to the Nigerian government as we stand as concerning our heritage site and maintaining our heritages?
Yes, our heritage site won't be maintained or preserved dutifully, consciously, and sustainably for the sake of conservation or preservation. When we develop into tourism sites, it will be possible to have it preserved and conserved. because everyone wants money. So once these sites are tourist sites and they spin revenue, then it will be possible to have them maintained. These are the issues we have to look at. It's a very serious issue. Like I have advised elsewhere, our community development projects are failing because once they are developed, commission, they are abandoned. The community don't maintain them. So I am asking that our development approach to community should be systematic, integrated development, where such projects are attached to tourism aspect development, so that small revenue generated from tourism will be used to maintain such projects. So any heritage site which has not been developed into a tourism site will fit out with time. But if they have been developed into a tourism site on a very serious note, they will be maintained, because experts will also come in from far and near to show the ways on how to maintain, and even sponsors will come along. For example, in Akwa Ibom State, we have a lot of tourism sites which have not been developed. I can start coming from Ibiono, Mary Slessor, the first European Christian missionary to visit Africa, lived among us until she died in 1915. Where she was buried is there. There is a memorial cairn erected there in 1946 by the British government. Is a beautiful tourist site which has not been utilized.
Okay, yes. Sir. Mr. Chris, let me come in there.
It would interest you. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. I want to take you back a little bit. You mentioned that before now, we had some heritage practices that were ecosystem friendly, like the conservation of some forest reserve, where it was a taboo for people to go in and cut down trees, right? Hello, Dr. Chris.
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, I'm concerned about that point, because taking it holistically, you would understand that, there were some, would I say, perhaps the negative effect of that, apart from looking at it in terms of the climate change and all of that. Would you say that practice was really okay?
Yes, actually, people like to attach myths and mysteries into our culture and tradition. People were deceived. If they entered into such sacred and conserved lands to do anything, they were going to die.
Absolutely.
It was a strategy to get those places conserved. No one would have died if anyone went in.
You think so?
Because those places, because of modern development, are being cut down, are being cleared, and are being developed into residential, industrial areas, and no one is dying. So it was a strategy in our traditional culture to get that to scare people, because people will have to have something to scare them away. People who have to run away from what they fear. When Ekbo masquerade comes out, people who are non-initiated will run away. So when you tell people Ekbo live in that forest, naturally they fear Ekbo, they won't go there. It was a strategy to conserve those lands, which we call virgin lands. A few are still remaining today. This strategy was used to conserve them up to these days. The many more have been desecrated.
Well, don't you think that perhaps there was a kind of appeasement done to the guards to ensure that those reserves were, habitable for ordinary citizens?
A few actually received such attention, but I tell you, as a fact, majority of such veteran land had nothing to do with spiritism. It was just a strategy, a cultural strategy to conserve. That's just the truth.
Okay, so at this point, we know that the focus is about sustaining our heritage as a people, and there's a global call for concerted effort to preserve our heritage as a vital link to our culture, our education, our aesthetics, and all of that. Now, a lot of today's generation, let me use that word, do not really subscribe to some cultural and religious practices. Now, as an expert in the field, would you advise present day generation to connect with the culture of the past or not?
Culture is a way of life of a people. To worship the God of heaven had been the culture of the Jewish people. It came down to Christ. This is the people's culture. The white man came and poisoned our minds and intellects that our culture was satanic. Today you can see that technology and science are products of culture. If Africans should pay attention to the culture, we will bring to the world the best aspect of technology and science. It will interest you that Ikun, which is called xylophone, was developed by Africans. It was out of our cultural heritage. The white man knew nothing about it. Until he came here and saw Ikun, the xylophone, he had no idea to develop a keyboard or piano. So those scientific products are products of our culture. They took it from our culture. So if we should be able to pay attention to science and technology, we will have the best gift to the world through science and technology, because all the pieces of technology we are enjoying today, my brother, are products of the people's culture. Mm. So anything you see, tangible or intangible in the universe, is a product of a culture. So culture is a way of life of a people. A way of life of a people cannot be evil, cannot be satanic.
Okay, so you've rightly mentioned that culture is a way of life of the people, which
Hello?
you all know. Are you with me, sir? Hello, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Okay,
yeah.
So you've stated the fact that culture is a way of life of the people, and we agree with that, and that it cannot be evil. But I'll take your mind back to some traditional practices like the female genital mutilation that we've had over time. And present scientific medical experts say it's dangerous to the girl child. Would you say in that regard that we'll be right, or would you advise for us to still sustain such cultural practices regardless of the fact that it is dangerous to the girl child?
From the onset of this program, I stated that not all heritage should be preserved or conserved. We should pay attention to those positive ones. Mm. And such negative ones are not only found in African culture, they are found everywhere in the world. Genital mutilation, if you listen to the traditionalists or those who practice it, who practice this, if you listen to their explanation, it is towards morality. And we cannot discuss that in this program. Besides the unhygienic way of handling that matter, they had good intention. But because we have medicine and medical science developed, we don't need it in that aspect. The medical science should handle that aspect and is handling that aspect very effectively. So we don't need that mutilation any longer.
Okay, at what point would you say, because naturally no traditional custodian of any community would come up and say, I don't need this one, except if there is an alarm raised on it, there's an NGO where they're clamoring for change of such traditional practices. Do you think at this point we need a review of our traditional practices and to streamline which one should be carried to the next generation and which one should be, dropped down?
Please come again. Traditional practices in what aspect, please? Sorry, I didn't get you loud and clear.
I'm saying that we have come to that consensus agreement about the female genital mutilation because there has been a lot of advocacy on it by NGOs, foreign bodies, and everyone alike to stop it, regardless of, like you said, that there were some genuine intentions behind it. But medically, it has been proven to have a lot of effect on the girl child. Now that happened, that was we were able to come to that compromise because a lot of agitations has been done. But there are some other cultural practices that might not, be good enough to carry forward. Perhaps there are no more, there are no persons coming up to agitate for a drop on such cultural practices. So I'm asking, Do you think we still have some cultural heritage and practices left that we need to abolish at this point?
Yes, severally. Besides the genital mutilation we are talking about, which I think the practitioners had a reason. If you listen to them, they were sincere, they were honest, they wished the girl child well. But they were deprived by that. The girl child who was unable to speak for herself was not allowed to speak for herself. So if it were to continue, the girl child should grow into an adult and take such a decision for herself, because there are certain privileges she was expected to let go or lose by that action. So she should be allowed to take that decision on herself. And by the grace of God, medicine, medical science is there for her if she wants it. But I tell you as a fact, it should not be practiced traditionally the way it were. Take that away, that a lot of other practices where we have to do away with. The kind of demands made to children of a diseased person, they go sell out the only thing they will have used to progress themselves, to get money in order to bury their parents. Such things must be dealt with. There should be no standing list of marriage items. Let individual parents decide what they want to do with their daughters during marriage. These are things we have to work hard. A lot of young men are in love with a lot of young girls. They can't go forward to announce this to their respective families because of the fear of the material demands. This is unfair.
Well, if you say so, what would you say? What would you recommend as an expert as a way forward by which we can go about to stop some of these practices?
Come closer to your mic.
Okay, I'm asking, what would you recommend as the way forward? How do we go about to stop these practices?
The best way is first enact laws to criminalize such practices which are deemed in modern time as obnoxious, and to encourage NGOs and even be partly funded by the government to serve as a watchdog, because we have a lot of laws in this country against a lot of practices and actions in this country, but they are not effective because the watchdogs are not effective in watching out for those who break such laws. So let us have a lot of NGOs to help us watch over this aspect of social activities we are talking about. In that way, there will be that fear, the phobophobia. I tell you as a fact, everyone is a lawbreaker. What makes people become good citizens is the fear of the law. That is why Europe and the West are doing well in this aspect, because their law is there available to catch on anybody. The lack of implementing our laws is why we are lawless. Everyone is lawless. What gives us sense of being law-abiding is the fear of what the law would do to us. So when we know that the law will not catch up with us, we are reckless.
Okay, it's true that when we know the law is not going to catch up with us, we are restless. And then talking about dealing with the different practices that are no longer in tune and that are injurious, like you rightly mentioned, the issue of marriage, where we have outrageous lists from communities as against the parents. Now, I want to draw your attention to the northern axis of Nigeria, where we have reportedly high rates of child marriages. And sometimes we're told that this is because the child protection law, the Child Act law, has not been, adopted by the different states or some of the states in the northern region. Now, as an expert, what do we have, or what would be your advice towards ensuring that if, for instance, we have a constitution in the Federal Republic of Nigeria that outlaws a particular practice, that this constitution goes down to the state level and becomes a law that is adopted statewide or nationwide to ensure that these laws are being implemented?
Talking about Northern Nigeria, since child marriage is part of their culture, because their own belief is based on the fact that once pubic hairs are developed in those private parts, the girl is ready. So that is the mentality. So there are children who develop these hairs earlier in life. What that means that if a child of 8, 9, 10 years develop pubic hairs, it will be deemed an adult. That is the challenge. That is the issue. Since it has to do with their religion, no constitution will solve that problem. It's to use the Islamic authorities to approach that issue. Hello?
Yes, I'm with
We
you.
can hear you. Well, you said it's to approach it through the Islamic courts, which of course it's available to those practicing Islamic religion. But I'm concerned, chancing a way forward, I know there's so many potentials, like you have rightly mentioned before now, a lot of potentials, natural heritage in Akwa Ibom lying west, not developed. Apart from, having the governments go into such sites to develop it as a tourist attraction, do you think it would be okay if we have private individuals try to maybe, invest in that direction?
The number one step to take is to put in place Tourism Development Commission.
But we have the Culture and
Outside
Tourism Board.
The Tourism Development Commission. The challenge we have is that around 2017, I was the chairman of a tourism consortium for the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Tourism. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hello?
We're with you, sir. Hear you.
Hello?
Hello, sir. We're with you. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So, I was the chairman of the tourism consortium, which consulted for the Ministry of Culture and Tourism.
Okay.
We brought in other experts to work with us. We developed a master plan. The Ministry of Culture and Tourism, then under one Honorable Antai, came up with a carnival in Uyo. The Christmas of 2017 breaking 2018 had Uyo agog in tourism activities. It has never been so, and has not been so since then. You know why? Because the commissioner left. The commissioner left for a political inspiration. So, and he died. If it were a tourism development commission empaneled by law, that would not happen. By now, we will have gone far in tourism development. Given what is happening in Calabar, we will have stolen Carnival from Calabar by now. So, a tourism development to be there and empowered by law to look for sponsors and developers to take up these sites and develop on an agreement of percentage of what should be due the states. This is the way to go. Public-private partnership in developing these sites. Government would not do it, especially in a state that is earning so much from oil. They say lack or scarcity is the mother of invention. We already know what will come to us at the end of the month from the federal district through our oil. So naturally, nations and countries with such endowment rarely go into development. That's why, since there are no such resources in the Caribbean countries, pay attention to their tourism development as revenue earners for them.
Well, it's interesting to note that. So we can say that it's more of a leadership issue, and that you're recommending a separate MDA to be established by law that is private and not government related. Hello.
Re-echoing back.
Okay.
There's something about your sound and the studio.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing time being with you this morning and talking about World Heritage Day. We really do appreciate you giving us your time. Thank you so much for coming, sir.
Thank you very much.
Do have a nice day, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Welcome,
we
sir.
were talking to Dr. Honorable Chris Abasieyo. He's the former commissioner for information at Akwa Ibom State, and he's been, doling out interesting bullet points there. It's interesting to know that the injunction on the evil forest, that African magic would always say, you're looking for one red yellowish stone to come and save a community from one plague that is being induced by the gods, was actually just a prank to get people to stay away from deforestation.
Well, sometimes it was, like you rightly mentioned, and at other times it wasn't. I mean, still Nigerian movies, you've seen situations where, for instance, you send core members into a community and a place that was reported to be an evil forest where evil powers reside in, just get to find out that there was no evil, actually. It was just a myth that was created to probably sometimes have some bad element, utilize that privilege to use the forest for some different criminal activities. So it is a myth that is created, and sometimes man truly needs something to be afraid of if laws are going to be respected, and that's why you have punishment in the legal aspect. So the punishment serves as a deterrent for somebody who wants to break the law. When you look at the consequences of breaking that particular law, then you call yourself to order.
Well, when you look at the diplomatic way under the democratic regime of punishing defaulters, people who do not obey the rule of law, quite frankly, it is not as intense, it is not as fearful as what you have with the traditional custodians. You will hear things like, if you get to the evil forest, then spirits will come there and kill you and all of those things. But well, yeah, like I've said, it's quite revelatory and expository to know that they were just myths. And perhaps we now understand the need to conserve forest, the need to preserve our forest, the need to be protective of our environment, but for the fact that you need fresh air to breathe, you need carbon dioxide to be absorbed out of the atmosphere, which of course is what the plants represent, and they're about understanding the fact that the fresh air you breathe is important to you is enough reason not to cut that tree down.